is an SABC News presentation.
Nginibingelele nonke emakhaya babukeli kwesiqephu sethu saleli viki sohlelo lethu Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Mbukeli sizakubona bukhoma la kungaphambili SABC1 Mzansi for sure. Igama lami ke mina ngingo-Alish Ntombi yakajali. Ukhumbule ke mbukeli ngokuhamba kwesikhathi njengenjwayelo sizokuvulela ingcingo ukuthi phela na ukwazi ukubamba iqhaza ohlelweni lethu ngokuthi usibuze imibuzo noma ubeke umbono wakho. Siyazi ke sobuye futhi sibe ne special guest from the Department of Arts and Culture to talk to us a bit about Freedom Day le ezobe sasu yazi ke mbukeli ungasithinta ngocingo la ku 011 714 6918 noma uzame ku 714 6919 ungasithumela futhi ne-email mbukeli ku consumer@sabc.co.za or even comment on our Facebook page, and we've been getting a lot of feedback from that. Igama lethu Yilungelo, or send us a tweet alternatively, and our hashtag is @Yilungelo. Garnishee orders have impoverished many consumers. Now it has emerged that the majority of these orders have been illegally issued against consumers or are invalid. Now consumer rights bodies want to relook at Garnishee orders. The National Credit Regulator has now launched an investigation. Asibone.
Ekuthelene kamuva ebedingida lolu daba kuvelile ukuthi isigidi esithathu zezakhamuzi zakuleli zizigqila kulama Garnishee orders. Abanye abathengi basala bengenamali emva kokuba wonke umholo wabo uhambe nalolu hlelo. uRonald Sabela ophethe zomthetho eNational Credit Regulator uthi sebenqume ukuthi benze uphenyo ngoba ukuthathelwa kwabathengi imali ngokungemthetho kubonakala kwanda.
Ngoma complaints bekuvela ukuthi kungathi khona i-trend ekhona yokuthi like ama Garnishee orders awekho emthethweni. Ingakho ke lolu phenyo kahle sisho ukuthi okwamanje kusayi allegation noma into abantu abasayisho, and uphenyo oluzocacisa ukuthi lento eshiwoyo iqiniso noma cha.
Abakwa National Credit Regulator abengamele lemboni yokuboleka imali bebeyingxenye yalenkomfa. Kulomhlangano bekukhona nabe National Debt Mediation Association neCredit Ombudsman. uNeo Liote wakwa-Credit Ombudsman uthi izinkampani ezikhipha isikweletu zibuyisa imali yazo ngalolu hlelo lwama-Garnishee orders.
Ama-credit providers are also trying to recoup imali yabo, and one of the ways they do that basebenzisa ama-Garnishee orders. So I think it will always come up. I mean, it's legal. Ama-Garnishee orders, it's a legal way yokuthi bathole imali yabo back. So it will be there. Inkinga nje is always maybe the process might not be a right efollowayo.
I-Garnishee order esemthethweni ileyo ekhishwa enkantolo. Kuphuma incwadi iye kumqashi. Inkantolo ke ibe isithumela umqashi leli pheshana lomthetho. I-Summit Garnishee Solutions inkampani yesiza abathengi abasenkingeni yama-Garnishee orders. uHilton Dube osebenza khona uthi ama-Garnishee awasoze aphela. Abaphathisa ikhanda abathengi amaningi.
Thina siwathola from ama-clients wethu athunyelwa la Summit Garnishee Solutions, so capture bese sibhadala ke lawo ma-collectors or ama-attorneys. Kodwa asibhadali nje kuphela, siya-check ukuthi yonke into, especially ama-legal procedures ukuthi wonke alandelwa.
Nokho ke suke kotholakala ukuthi ama-Garnishee amaningi awekho emthethweni noma anikwe abantu okungafanele bawathole. Izinhlangano ezilwela abathengi njenge-National Debt Mediation Association ziyakwazi ukusiza. Ongomunye wabaphathi e-NDMA uCrash Krishnan ukhuthaze abathengi ukuthi beze kubo ukuzofuna usizo.
it's not an end of the road. There is a recourse available, and with the help of employers, consumers are often successful. And consumers also need to know their rights. They need to know exactly what to look out for on a garnishee order.
Abathengi abaningi abanawo amandla ukulwa nalama garnishee. Ekupheleni kosuku uthola ukuthi abantu basala bengenamali uma beqeda ukuhola ngenxa yalokhu. Iningi lalama garnishee omgunyathi awahambisani nesivumelwano somthengi mayelana nesikweletu. Kwesinye isikhathi kutholakala ukuthi amasiginisha omuntu antshontshiwe. Abalwela abathengi bathi kumele kuphele lokuhlukunyezwa kwabantu. Bafuna konke okumayelana nalolu hlelo lwamagarnishee kubhekisiswe ngelinye iso. Jobe Sithole, Yilungelo Lakho.
Sibonge kakhulu Jobe for that background piece. Manje ukuthi sikhulume kabanzi ke ngalolu daba asamukele izivakashi zethu e-studio uMiss Umahauta Mphahlele yena oyinhloko ye-National Debt Mediation Association kanye no-Hilton Dube yena ovela kwinkampani ebhekene nokusizana nabantu abaneyinkinga zama-garnishee orders i-Summit Garnishee Solutions. We also hope to be joined later on in the program by the credit ombudsman Mr. Manny van Skalwyk. Sanibonani ngenamukele kulungelo lakho. Sis Mahauta, let's start with you. Garnishee orders, abantu abaningi abazi nokuthi yini i-garnishee order. Sicela usichazele kabanzi.
I-garnishee order yenye yendlela according to i-Magistrates Court Act. La i-credit provider inelungelo lokuthi umthengi mangasakhona ukubhadala isikoloto sakhe, i-credit provider yenye yezinyathelo angayithatha ukuthi athole imali yakhe back. So okwenzakalayo kusho ukuthi bazaya ecourt bazasho ukuthi lo muntu uyankolota imali engaka, and then i-magistrate court mayivuma izokhipha into esibiza ukuthi garnishee order, kusho ukuthi court order enika i-employer yakho emsebenzini ukuthi banike isivumelo sokuthi imvume yokuthi ba-deduct imali from isalary yakho.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, Mr. Hilton, sicela usichazele wena kabanzi ngomsebenzi owenzayo ngoba siyazi ukuthi wena udila kakhulu nabantu abaneyinkinga mayelana nama-garnishees.
Okay, thina Summit Garnishee Solutions siza ama-clients wethu ngama-employers, not individual consumers. So ama-court orders la ama-garnishee orders mayesegrantiwe e-court athunyelwa kuthina ngama-clients wethu lawo, then siyawa-capture ku-system yethu, siya-checka njalo ukuthi ama-charges akhona asemthethweni na, like ama-legal fees, interest, siya-checka njalo nokuthi lawo ma-garnishee orders are-valid na. Ngoba sesihlangene nenkinga eziningi zama-garnishee orders angekho valid, illegal, mhlawumbe amanye angagrantwanga nase-magistrate court.
And into engifuna sikhulume ngayo kabanzi namhlanje ngiyacela sis Mahauta, let's talk about the difference between an illegal and a legal garnishee order. Ukuphi umehluko?
Well, illegal njengoba kushisho ukuthi lama garnishee order akhishwa in terms of the Magistrates Court Act. So umthetho uyasho ukuthi yipi procedure credit provider efanele ifollowe ukuthi aze afike kuleso sikhathi sokuthi athole garnishee order. Kodwa ama garnishee order futhi akhishwa kaningi ama-attorney. So i-problem ukuthi a lot of the time abafollow i-procedure and sometimes bathatha nama-shortcuts.
Kwenziwa yini lokho sis Mahauta?
Kaningi angithi nathi asazi amalungelo wethu. Ene kakhulu njengoba ngisho ukuthi i-garnishee order ikhishwa ecourt, ama-magistrates court abana capacity yokuthi bazi-check zonke lezi zinto lezi. So mabayithola kaningi consumer futhi kaningi akekho nase-court. So and then because ama-consumer futhi awazi ama-rights by the time ufonela attorney bakuputha under pressure, for example bakusayina isinto bakubiza ukuthi consent to judgment, ukuthi uyasign ukuthi uyavuma ukuthi uyakolota. Kaningi futhi ukuthi i-credit provider sometimes iyasithengisa lesikoloto sakho, so sithengwa abantu abaningi. So uthola ukuthi upursue ama-lawyer amaningi ukuthi bafuna le garnishee order le. So e-court kaningi ngoba maningi ama-magistrate court abazi-check lezi zinto. So kune loophole ema-court ukuthi izimane ziyandluliswa nje ngaphandle kokuthi zicheckiwe ukuthi zi-valid na. And then nama-consumer kunezinto ebazisayinayo ema-contractini ezenza ukuthi nayo le problem ichubeka ngokungazi. They are being misled ukuthi basayine certain documents ekungafanelanga bazisayine. And then inkinga kakhulu njengoba i-insert besho ukuthi kaningi futhi mabakhishwa lama-garnishee order i-consumer ayikho lapho, so they don't do i-assessment yokuthi uzokhona na ukuthi we afford le garnishee order ababheki affordability yakho so bamane baganisha nje so noma 2000 or whatever uzayibona iphuma isalary yakho. That's why sinabantu abaningi uthola ayekhaya ukuthi imali ayisekho igarnishee order ithathe yonke imali. Inkinga eningi kakhulu leyo ukuthi yeah.
Manje kuza kanjani ukuthi lama garnishee orders are illegal azadlule ngoba uyasho sisimakhotha ukuthi kumele akhishwe i-magistrate. So kuza kanjani ukuthi labantu bathole lama loopholes ukuthi bakhiphe labantu ama garnishes angekho asemthethweni?
That's why ngisho ukuthi ecourt labantu abazistempayo lezinto abanasi isikhathi sokuthi bahlale phansi babheke zonke lezinto ukuthi ziyayenzeka. So that is a problem ukuthi ecourt akuna capacity. And njengoba ngisho sometimes i-consumer isuke isayine ivume ezinye izinto ngokungazi. Uyabona, for example uthola ukuthi umthetho uthi garnishee order fanele ikhishwe la osebenza khona or la employer yakho ikhona, but uthola ukuthi uhlala eCape Town bakusayinisa ukuthi garnishee order yakho iyophuma eJohannesburg or uvume izinto ukuthi ezingekho ukuthi uyavuma ukuthi uyakolota uyavuma ukuthi bazithathe zonke lezi steps lesi without you being there, so it creates a problem le. So that's why it must be regulated further ngoba khona manje ayinkinga
ngempela. Now Hilton, when usebenza nama employers phecelezi companies, where do ama employers stand in this? Because bona bathola ama garnishes ibona basebe deducta imali la. I-payroll isebenza muphi umsebenzi ukuthi kuze kuganishwe?
Okay, i-payroll yona angithi ama garnishee orders agcina efike officeini lethu angithi. So thina siya captureisha sithumela i-information ukuthi deducta so much from employee so bona ibona abazobhadala ke. Kodwa inkinga ukuthi ema payroll ukuthi abanalo ulwazi especially lama garnishee orders are valid nangekho valid angithi. Bona into abayenzayo nje ikwathumela nje kuphela kuthina ngoba thina sinalulwazi thina ama experts, so siyakhona ukuthi sicheck yonke lento ukuthi yenziwe isemthethweni na siba challenge la kumele siba challenge.
Nikwenza kanjani lokho Bot Hilton?
Right, siyaba contacta lawo ma attorneys nama debt collectors angithi kunamanye ama documents esiwacela ukubona from the loan agreement itself, letters of demand or section 129 notices nama consent to judgment if be tholi judgment nganeyo ndlela or summons angithi. Mase sithole lawo ma documents nama statements zalo njalo siyawacela. Siya check ke ukuthi ama charges wabo are they in line with what the National Credit says they should charge, ama legal fees alawo ma attorney are they within the law, and namanje nje ama charges angithi siya check nje yonke lento. Masithola inkinga siyaba challenger amanye ama matters uthola ukuthi bavela balungise sithumele siba adjust lawo ma balance. Amanye sigcina sisenza ama court applications si rescind lawo ma judgments or si masenze lawo ma court applications set aside leyo garnishee order or kube ne adjustment, kube ne reduction on interest or whatever abayi overchargeile ku employee.
All right. So Sismakhota, let's talk about some of the problems engena dealing ngazo. Awusitshele nje ongasiqabazisela ngazo. Ngaphambi kokuthi
inkinga enkulu ukuthi abantu bethu kaningi makaba nenkinga yokuthi angasakhona.
Bamba kanjalo Sismakhota ethi siqhubeke esitolo kwamanje sithi kuye esitolo mbukeli, but before siya ithi ngikhumbuza ukuthi phela na ungabamba iqhaza ngokulolu hlelo ngokuthi usishayele phela ucingo la ku 011 714 6918 noma ku 714 6919. Ungasithumela futhi ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. Alternatively sithinte ku Facebook page yethu igama lethu Yilungelo or usilandele ku Twitter @Yilungelo. Siyabuya khona manje ungathivu. Sinamukele futhi babukeli. We continue with our very live discussion on the negative effects of Garnishee orders on the lives of many consumers, particularly orders that have been illegally issued on the lives of consumers. Ukuthi ubambe iqhaza ke mbukeli nawo ungasithinta ngocingo ku 011 714 6918 noma u 011 714 6919. Ungasendela email ku consumer@sabc.co.za noma usijoine lapha ku Facebook igama lethu Yilungelo, or send us a Twitter on @Yilungelo. Sismakhota, before siya breaking, you were about to share with us ama problems endike nahlangana nawo mindila nama garnishee orders are illegal.
Inkinga ukuthi ama-consumer amaningi abanayo sengizathi capacity yokuthi bangazilwela lezi zinto lezi. Kaningi they have nowhere to go ukuthi babe nomuntu ozomncedisa. I think amakhampani afana neGarnishee Summit akhona, but ziningi lezi zinto lezi. So I think futhi enye inkinga ukuthi nama-employer ama-HR department kaningi uthola ukuthi yibo abawatholayo lama order. Abanayo ulwazi, abanalo ulwazi lokuthi yini le ekufanele bayibheke ukuthi whether this thing is right or wrong. Bathatha nje ukuthi court order and then i-court order kufanele bayi-implement. So sometimes uzothola ukuthi nawe lo iGarnishee order against wena awubizwa nokubiza ukuthi hey phela kunento
nje uzobona imali ihamba nje
uyavuma awuvumi kwenzakaleni imali yaphuma nje. So I think i-training nalapho fanele yenzakale. And then there must be a process yokuthi kube nakhona lama consumer angayakhona ukuthi bahambe baya complain. Akhona ama organizations amaningi labo ungafumani incwadi
ungathola usizo
khona. But into enkulu kakhulu ukuthi nomthetho fanele uchintshwe ngalendlela because there's a long process before bazofika ku Garnishee order. And inkinga esibona ukuthi abantu bethu abaningi uyazi ukuthi uyakweleta and then approach credit provider or any institutions ukuthi umncede ukuthi angasebenzisana kanjani ne credit provider ukuthi ize icazululwe lenkinga. So bayawathola ama letters of demand, bayazithola bazibeka. And then that is why sisho ukuthi if ungakhona ukubhadala khuluma ne credit providers aku MTM credit ombud NCR ucele ulwazi lokuthi ungayisolve kanjani lenkinga, because if you don't do that izofika ku stage la then they have to take iGarnishee order against your name. And the fact that ababheki ukuthi i-consumer whether they can afford it or not is a big problem. Ula khona ke ukuthi umuntu akasakhona nokudla abhadala school fees ayemsebenzini because imali yonke iphuma. So siyasho ukuthi it must be compulsory before they give iGarnishee order ukuthi somebody must sit down and look at your circumstances in terms of your income, your expenditure, ukuthi ukhona ukuphila and then ukhona futhi ukubhadala isikweletu.
But Hilton, esayidini lakho njenge company dealer ngama Garnishee orders, nina yini ama problems ngeke nahlangana nawo?
Ama problems esihlangana nawo kakhulu is overcharging on part of debt collectors, nama attorneys ngowawo, nama illegal Garnishee orders, nama utholti ama documents, court documents, ama signatures forged on consent to judgment and namanye nje ama legal documents ukuze ngoba bafuna ukushesha bathola imali yabo ngithi. So kuyenzakala kakhulu lento uthi i-loan agreement nayo ne signature ye consumer, but consent to judgment, the signatures are so different as fani yabona ngoba bafunda i-judgment. So ngezinye inkinga esihlangana nazo nama Garnishee orders angagrantwa e-court. Well ngiyathola ine court stamp, ine case number, kodwa thina asivele sibheke nje sithi anosizobhadala siyaya nase court siyaya, we do the legwork, siye check ukuthi kune court file na yabo uthola sihlangana nenkinga ukuthi ayikho, sithola ayikho i-court file, mhlambe sithole i-case number efanayo it has totally different parties inside that, which means leyo Garnishee order ke i-fraudulent. Yabona izinkinga esihlangane nazo ke lezo. Kodwa siya conscious basiza abantu ma i-fraudulent sizobhadala kanjani. Siyavele siyistophe ku system yethu ma if case of overcharging siyaba challenger whether it's an attorney noma ubani bonke nje siyaba challenger whether it's on legal fees. There are rules of the law society okumele balandele, there are tariffs that attorneys have to follow uthi ba charge kanjani. So must tell uthi no abalandelo siyaba challenger. If we can even take matters for taxation, if we have a court for taxation bayo check uthi lawo ma charges are they reasonable charges bekumele ba charge na. If kunenye into engekho right uthola they ba cross out lawo ma charges, then ama legal fees la ehle. Ngoba cabanga uma umuntu one capital amount ye 1000 rand sebhadala ama legal fees 10,000 rands.
That's a lot.
Ama cases anjalo amaningi.
Ngithathe anonymous online. Anonymous from Gauteng, welcome to Yilungelo Lakho. Good afternoon. All right, we've lost our caller. But Hilton, you were still going on ukuthi njengekhampani ninithola ama loopholes la kwenzeka khona ama mistakes. Sis Mahauta, how does it happen in the first place ukuthi lezi zinto zenzeke? How does it ushilo vele ukuthi kuna that bridge between isuka ecourt? Lama forged signatures kuza kanjani lokho?
Because it's like yes, a court. I know all the documents, so it's difficult for it. Like njengobuta, for example, a forged signature. Abana, there's no way anga compare with the signature le. Yeah, actually, agama khauta.
Oh,
yeah. So
Anonymous is back with us on the line. Sawamukela Anonymous.
Hello, kunjani?
Siyaphila sisi, sicela usibekele umbuzo noma umbono wakho.
Mina umbuzo bengine Garnishee ne. So le Garnishee akusiye company one. Kodwa lana ngibaqedile seyiqalile futhi yanganisha futhi amanye ama lawyer kodwa i-account A1. So ngicela ukubuza ukuthi kumele ukuthi ngenze njani ngoba iyaqhubeka. This month cancel, next month iyabuya. Kuthi ya fluctuate, ayikho straight. So ngicela ukubuza ukuthi mina ngenze kanjani.
Oh, siyabonga kakhulu Anonymous, sicela ubukele kumabona kude wakho. Uba ungangiphendulela sesimahauta.
Okay, njengoba individual consumer, I think angafonela NDMA sizamnika ama number we credit ombudsman because yabancedisa. Yeah, because Garnishee order is first time bathatha I-capital amount lobe we call it the credit provider. Bese ucabanga ukuthi ucedile, and then the next one bakhitha ngama legal fees izinto ezinjalo. So that is why sometimes iyangena ucabanga ukuthi ucedile kuyibhadala bese iyangena because manje sebacala ukucollect ama legal fees.
But Hilton, what can people do if umuntu ezithola ekule ngxaki, especially individual consumers, abantu bakhathazekile ngempela? Yini, what's the first thing umuntu ekumele ayenze mayithole kule ngxaki?
Okay, kumele acele i-copy yaleyo Garnishee order, contacta i-company afana neyethu. Siyakhona ukubasiza abantu abanjalo.
Okay, niyabenzela nabantu ama-individuals?
Yebo, sesiqalile ukubasiza nama-individuals.
Okay. All right, and then Sis Mahauta, if you can add on that, what can one do megazithole kule simo, because ngempela ngathi uncedo alukho out there readily available and bazocabanga ukuthi there is legal fees involved and all that stuff. Please elaborate.
Okay, NDMA yona inceda ama consumers for free. If you've got any issue a credit, whether a Garnishee order or uthole blacklistiwe or uthole lezinto siyakhona sometimes siyakhona ukunceda, but we know everybody osebenza nga different things, so siyakhona ukuthi usifonele usitshele inkinga yakho and then we will refer you to the right people to go to.
All right, we've got a caller online. Caller, welcome. Welcome to Yilungelo Lakho. Good afternoon.
Hello, Sisi.
Hello, Sisi. Hello, Poti. Welcome to Yilungelo Lakho.
Yeah, ngicela somla ne.
Yebo Poti, sicela usiphakamise ilizwi.
Yeah, mna ngicela somla Sisi ne.
Yebo Poti.
I-problem A1, i-system is corrupt. Yabona?
Yebo.
Hello?
Hello.
Njengoba ubude sitsho explain bakukho i-signatures forgery, yaqonda. So what can you do when it comes into law? Because that also, if on top the system is corrupt.
Oh, unfortunately, usilahlekele ubhuti, but I'm sure uzwile Bud Hilton ukuthi uthi if ilokhuzana iGarnishee orders usuzithola unengxaki yayo yini ekumele uyenze. Ngathi abanayo leyo information Sisimahauta.
Okay. Into angayenza ma kunjalo like ama cases of ama sickness afojiwe, that Garnishee order is invalid because bayithola ngendlela engekho emthethweni, like uforge ama signature, and then in such a case you apply for rescission of that judgment. You said to set aside completely ngoba ayikho emthethweni, ithole ngendlela engekho right. So ukuthi nje ama consumers mhlawumbe unga approach igqwetha ukuthi amagqwetha nje uthola abakhona uafford igqwetha ngithi, so yinkinga abafesana nayo, kodwa that's the process ukuthi you apply for rescission of that judgment if kube ne forgery of ama signatures, ngoba that court order is invalid.
It's invalid. Okay, for now we're going to take another quick ad break. Ungayindawo mbukeli siyabuya khona manje. Sinamukele futhi mbukeli usabuka Yilungelo Lakho, it's your right. Siza kuwena bukhoma la kunqa phambili SABC1 eMzansi for sure. Izivakashi zami la studio nguye usesuma Khawuta mphahlele kanye naye uPut Hilton Dube. Now let's go on with our discussion. Sisuma Khawuta, I want to know what is who can help the people abanezinkinga. Busushilo ukuthi there is a free kunama options are free abantu abangasizakala if benama garnishing orders are illegal.
I think I-advise yami ukuthi anybody manje ohleli ekhaya or one garnishing order must go back and check ukuthi bayavumelana nayo leyo garnishing order or not. And if they feel ukuthi hayi aba-understand ukuthi kwenzakana bavumelane nale mali, because for example if say iphumile garnishing order, let's say mhlambe sebathi 2,000 rand and when you know ukuthi you can only afford 500 rand, unelungelo lokubuyela court bayehlise leyo mali leyo. So there is help available. So that is why ngisho ukuthi NDMA, it's a free service in a helpline. Abantu abanolwazi le credit nje overall, you can call and say I have this problem, and then sizakunika advice kuye uthi uye kuphi. Siyazi ukuthi credit ombudsman ikhona iyabancedisa abantu ngama garnishing order. Njengoba ubhutashilo ukuthi bayahlala phansi investigate whether it's valid or not, baya check whether the fees and charges are correct, and then they can assist a consumer. But also they can also approach amanye ma company ngaphandle if they can afford. But if you cannot afford the process, there are institutions like us and the credit ombudsman that can assist them for free.
Okay,
yes.
All right. Now, Put Hilton, what should be the first red flag a consumer kumele ayibheke ukuthi azabone ukuthi yazini kumele ngifollow up le garnishing order ngoba ngathi cha ayizi ngendlela ekumele ngabiza ngayo?
Okay. I'm sure i-consumer iyazi ukuthi ngaboleka imali engaka endaweni engaka. Mayese thola i-garnishing order for example boleke u5,000 rand, yona sithi judgment date 23,000. Ngihlangene nawo last week say example njengaleyo. Umuntu oboleke 5,000 rands but sebe applyela u23,000 rands cabanga. So kumele aqala ukuzimbuza ukuthi kwenza kanjani ukuthi baze bafike kule fika. Okay, and then enye into kumele i-consumer of course ulwazi njoba enganalo check installment njalo ukuthi uya afford naleyo installment. Okay, check nama like interest iyavela interest yakona ku garnishing order, nama legal fees akhona, utholity akhona amanye sometimes. Right, we have come across ama cases amaningi ukuthi atholity right now i-judgment date yaka 5,000 rands but ama costs kwabo 5,000 rand futhi.
Okay, ngicela ubambe lapho Hilton. Sinolizeka on the line from Kokstad. Sisilizeke siyakwamukela kuyilungelo lakho.
Hi, Sisimthikani.
Hayi siyaphila sicela ubuze umbuzo noma ubeka umbono.
Ingxaki sithi ndike garnishing order ndiganishiwe for last 2 months, and xa ndifonela le ndawo bathi beza kum and I never signed anything. Bathi ndikolota uBanet, xa ndiya kwaBanet ndagqiba umbhatala 6 years ago. So bathi mandifaxe i-affidavit nentonto ndazifaxa, xa sendibafonela bathi abazitholanga. Every time xa ndibafonela ndimfexile bathi abazifumananga. Ingxaki enjalo i-Q1.
Siyabonga, masicela ulalele lapho umabonakude wakho.
Phone helpline yethu and then sizamtshela ukuthi
ngicela usale usubanikeza ngoba I'm sure bonke bafuna ukubhala inamba unazi inamba ze helpline
086 Okay,
so bazokhona ukuthi bamncede bamise
kakhulu sibheke ukuthi case yakhe injani, and then i-credit ombudsman kaningi sisebenzisana nabo yibo kaningi abazayithatha forward ukuthi ba check and then ba challenge njengoba ubhutasho ukuthi bayakhona ukuthi bawafonela ama lawyer ukuthi ba justify the charges they have put in addition to le mali bekayikolota from the start.
All right, now let's go on. Let's talk about the modus operandi that lama creditors ayisebenzisa ukuthi ba collect le mali. Ngicela nichaze sisi nawe bhuti ukuthi bakwenza kanjani lokho.
Okay, enkinga njengoba usisi eshilo nje ukuthi ubona ngegarnishing order nje awazange bamcontactera. Enye into abayenzayo sisi ukuthi mabe sign i-consumer sign i-contract bavele bamsayinise in a consent to judgment, avela consent to judgment before a defaulter, which makes them easy for them to apply a garnishing order, and that is illegal. ngeke usayine i-contract namhlanje usayine njalo uvele consent to judgment on the same day. So ngeke aphinde azokwazi ukubona uzobona the day kune-garnish order deduction kwi-salary yakhe. So ayikho emthethweni yonke ngenye indlela abayisebenzisayo ukuze bathola imali ngama-garnish orders ukuze bakhona ukuthi ba-add ama-fees angekho emthethweni ba-collect imali eningi kakhulu abangamelanga bayithole.
All right, now we've got Manny van Schalkwyk, who's actually from the Credit Ombudsman on the line. Mr. van Schalkwyk, welcome to Yilungelo Lakho, and thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So can you please tell us, what can consumers do to deal with the fact that they're getting all these illegal Garnishee orders? What's the first thing that a consumer can do to get help?
I think you see, I think they're in a bit of a dilemma is number one, that the Garnishee order is served on the employer. And the employer is then forced to deduct the money from somebody's salary and pay it over to the credit provider. But what they need to do is if the consumer says, well, it's fraudulent or there's a problem, is they need to go to the employer and get the employer to go and help them and investigate it directly. They can also come to us. You know, there's also an avenue that we can have a look at the issues. But just on a broader scale is that we have established a task team of people who are investigating on a broader scale the problems in the Garnishee order or the emolument attachment order arena. And phenomenal stuff is busy happening while we're in this period, but we haven't reached finality of this processes yet.
All right.
But I can tell you we've got a lot of role players involved, and maybe I could just tell you we've got the Council of Debt Collectors, the Association of Debt Recovery Agents, the Law Society, the South African Board of Sheriffs, the Legal Resources Centre. They're more in observer capacity. But we've got all the role players who where this whole problem has originated from, and to look at this thing on a holistic way, and from there to come up with certain recommendations and a code of conduct for the industry to regulate where this malpractice is what's going on.
All right, thank you, Manny. We'll keep you on the line there. We'll get back to you. Okwamanje mbukeli sisathi nje shi eyitolo ungayindawo. Siphinde sinamukele babukeli siqhubeke ngengqoqo yethu ebhekene phela nokulimazwa kwabathengi ama-Garnishee orders. Abanye basala bengenalutho ngempela ephaketheni emva kwemiholo yabo. Ezinye zalama-Garnishee orders kukholela ukuthi ngokuthi sezikhishwe zikhishwe ngokungekho emthetheni. Nawe ke ungazwakalisa izimvo zakho noma umbono mbukeli ngokuthi ushayele ucingo phela ku 011 714 6819 noma 714 6919. Ungasithumela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. Noma uvakashele ipage lethu le-Facebook under igama Yilungelo. Alternatively, send us a tweet at Yilungelo. Now, Mr. Manny van Schalkwyk, welcome back. I just want to know, how wide is the investigation into these illegal Garnishee orders?
Well, I think I must start off is that the law clinic at the University of Pretoria did extensive research a couple of years ago, and they came to some conclusions, and we used that as the basis for the task team. And we categorized, and maybe, you know, in terms of how broad it is, I can maybe tell you what the findings were of that research. And that is the areas that we're focusing our attention on. And that is the excessive fees and charges that have been raised, and the interest that is charged on Garnishee orders. Then there is a lack, or people are not checking whether the consumer can actually afford this Garnishee order, so or emolument attachment order. So what we see is that some employees go home with no money because the emolument attachment orders have taken all the money. In terms of the findings of that research was misrepresentation, where people are asked to sign a blank form when they apply for credit, which is consent to take the Garnishee order in if they do default, which is illegal anyway. In terms of misrepresentation, also people are not very clear and honest to say what consumers need to sign for. So they will say to consumer, well, just sign on the dotted line, just that we have been here. And in the meantime, the consumer is signing consent to the emolument attachment order. Then we see jurisdictional issues within the courts, where the consumer will stay in Cape Town and the employer and the credit provider is in Cape Town, but a court in Kempton Park, for instance, will be issuing the emolument attachment order. So there's definitely some jurisdictional issues there. Then we see typical fraud issues where the consumer says, well, I've never signed these documents, but they are signed. And it's not the consumer signature. And that goes through the courts. And then I think there's a big gap in terms of education, not only for the consumers, but also for the employers and the unions about the rights and responsibilities in terms of emolument attachment orders.
Okay. And now, Mr. van Schalkwyk, what's the legal and moral manner to deal with these illegal garnishees?
Well, I think the law is quite clear, but there's a couple of loopholes that people abuse in the process. And I think, we must state it very clearly, is we do not want to get rid of emolument attachment orders, because if we get rid of them, then the alternative is that people's furniture and goods will be repossessed every time they don't pay. And we don't want that situation either. So I don't think emolument attachment orders are bad per se. I think it is the abuse which we need to stop.
All right. And then, Mr. van Schalkwyk, your parting words, what should consumers really look out for when it comes to illegal garnishee orders, or legal for that matter?
Yeah, I think all garnishee orders should be, people, when you are faced to consent or to sign to something, I think that it starts, take it one step back. When you sign your agreement, when you apply for credit, is make sure that you do not sign any blank documentation. Please do not sign any consent that in case you default, that you give them consent to do emolument attachment order. That should not be done, and it's against the law. That's number one. Number two, when you do default and for some reason you couldn't come to a arrangement with your credit providers, and this whole disaster gets into emolument attachment orders, make sure you know what you signed for. Ask what the interest rate will be after the court date. Make sure that you go and defend those issues. So I really think we should not just let things happen and undefended. Consumers need to be aware what is happening every step of the process.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. van Schalkwyk, for your
welcome.
time there. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks.
Now,
Take care.
Sis Magauta, let's talk about this. This issue is widespread. That people don't know what it is that they need to do. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the consumer rights. What are the rights of the consumers?
Well, we have a National Credit Act, and the National Credit Act governs the process of getting credit, the fees and charges that must be charged, and then the process that the credit provider must follow once you cannot pay.
Okay.
So, for example, if you cannot pay, a credit provider can issue what we call a Section 129 notice.
Okay.
That notice is saying to you, Magauta Mpahlele, we see that you are behind with 2 months, you cannot pay. Please come and talk to us. If you don't go and talk to them within a period of 10 days after the notice was properly delivered, they can take legal action. So the legal action process, also the law is very clear what legal action, and like Mani says, a lot of the time people sign before they acknowledge that, which means that they cut out the whole process that the credit provider must follow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they can then go straight to court. That is why you must never sign any acknowledgement to debt before you default or anything like that. Make sure you understand your rights in terms of the credit agreement. If you don't know, call the NDMA or anybody that you know to say, I need to take out a loan. This is the agreement, because you have the right to take the agreement and also go and read it and understand it. And they also have an obligation to explain to you. Yes, so they have to do that. But a lot of the time, our consumers don't inform themselves. They are excited, they want the loan, and they take it.
Oh, we've got a caller online. Caller, welcome. Good afternoon, and welcome to Yilungelo, Lakho.
Ukhuluma noNkosivumile mama lapha evotile ne.
Siyakwamukela bhuti sicela ubuza umbuzo.
Ngicela ubuza mina i-credit i-blacklisting ingena kuphi lapho? Ingena ithatha ixesha ilithatha nini apho ngifuna?
Okay, siyabonga.
Blacklist nxa unexesha elingakanani?
All right. Okay, we're going to take a very quick short break and then we're going to come back and get back to that subject. But before we do that, I'd like to thank all my guests on today's discussion on Garnishee orders. After the break, Ukhumbule Mbugeli Sobesi joined a guest from the Department of Arts and Culture, Uvusnet Mbandima, to talk a bit about Freedom Day, which is actually very significant, and how we will be celebrating this day tomorrow. Ungainda Mbugeli, thank you so much, guests, for joining us today. Unfortunately, Svelelo is cut. Thank you. Sikwamukele futhi mbukeli kwisegment yethu yokugcina ke la esasikhuluma manje ngeFreedom Day ilanga lakusasa, which is a very significant day, and sizokhuluma ke naye asamukele isivakashi sethu yena oy Director General lapha kwi-Department of Arts and Culture Mr. Vusithemba Ndima. Futhi siyakwamukela kwi-Yilungelo Lakho. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much,
all right, now Mr. Ndima, let's talk about Freedom Day. It's tomorrow, 18 years after freedom. What's going on tomorrow?
Okay, maybe Elisha, let me start by saying that I'm the Deputy Director General.
Yes, the Deputy Director General, yes.
Tomorrow we have a main function at the Union Building.
All right.
Where we are expecting the President of the Republic of South Africa to address the people of South Africa.
Yeah.
But I think that there are so many activities that are going to characterize the day.
All right.
We will be having a parade. A parade, multicultural parade, people moving from Freedom Park, walking to the Union Building as part of expressing this kind of freedom, but also as part of expressing this multicultural nature of our society.
All right.
And of course, there will be other activities like the performances.
Oh, okay. So kuzobe kune rally, kuzobe
kumnandi nje kakhulu kusasa singajabula kakhulu ukuthi abantu abakhele indawo yase Pitoli nase Johannesburg nje Gauteng ingathi bangaba nathi laphana kuma Union Building kobe kumnandi kakhulu.
All right. Now Mr. Vusithemba, let's talk about the gist of significance ilanga lakusasa. Tell us a bit about that.
Usuku lakusasa lisemqoka kakhulu dadwethu ngoba usuku lolu oluyinqophamlando.
Yeah.
Emlandweni wethu eSouth Africa. Uma ukhumbula kahle usuku lolu okokuqala ukuthi abantu baseNingizimu Afrika bakwazi ukuthi bavote, bavotele neqembu abalithandayo. Usuku lokuqala la olwalitshengisa i-break with the past, ukuthi asisekho manje esikhathini sakudala la kwakukhona ukucwasana ngebala ngayo yonke leyo ndlela. So ngenye indlela kwakuusuku lalisitshengisa ukuthi thina la eSouth Africa sonke, mengithi sonke ngisho zonke inhlanga sonke sikhululekile manje, sonke sibelonga kuleli izwe la eSouth Africa.
Asikhulume ngaloko ukukhululeka yini Director General le that the freedom has brought to us, yini le sishintshile mhlambe kwi health, kwi education nje nendlela esiphila ngayo sesabantu, especially abantu abebecwaswa ngebala before.
Angithathe nje ngiqale la sisukuthi ngempela uma sibheka la esisuka khona singasho nje sithi maningi amathuba asesivulelekele thina abantu abansundu einhlelweni eziningi ke mengibheka nje uma ubheka ukunikwa kwamanzi abantu babe namanzi, abantu banikwe ugesi. Mina ngakhulela ke emakhaya la engafunda khona nje ngathi nje primary education ne secondary education ngangifunda ngekhandlela. Kodwa namhlanje la engisuka khona mina mangayisho indawo yakhona nje ngasenquthu manje sekukhona ugesi, seyakhona amanzi. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi izo zonke into lezofanele sisho sithi Nkosi yami uhulumeni kukhona sekwenzile. Uma ubheka ke futhi izindlu abantu sebeyakwazi ukuthi banikwe izindlu, i-sanitation siyayibona ikhona, nemsebenzi ikhona. Siyazi ke Nkosi yami ukuthi ke akwaneli sawuthatha isikhathi ukuthi kwenele, kepha kufanele ukuthi sazi ukuthi ngempela ukhona umsebenzi osuwenziwe uhulumeni, futhi ukhona umsebenzi uhulumeni akusafanele awenze ngoba phela sibaningi nama resources uhulumeni anawo they are limited. So fanele sazi ukuthi ke sokuhlala sikwenza nje kancane size sifike la siyakhona. Ungabheka nje kahle uhlelo kahulumeni olusha i-National Development Plan iyasitshela manje ukuthi eminyakeni ezayo 2030 sebesikuphi njengesizwe sase South Africa.
Yeah.
Uyabona nalapho ukuthi kunomhlahlandlela nje ocacile ukuthi ngempelalohulumeni uyimisele ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi abantu abaningi babe benemsebenzi, abantu abaningi babe benezinhla, abantu abaningi babe amathuba okufunda, amathuba emsebenzi awubevulelekile. So ke ingakho kufanele ukuthi ngempela su celebrate usuku lwa ngomhla ka27 April. Yes.
Now Mr. Ndiba, yini le esashota? There's probably a lot of things is outstanding in terms of service delivery. Mungathi nje uqaba yini le kumele simele thina South Africans njengoba usho ukuthi kunesikhathi esibekela ukuthi ukhulumeni uzokwenza ngaleso sikhathi?
Ake sithathe nje sibheke lapho ukuthi there are so many programs are planning njengamanje ungabheka infrastructural program yokwakhiwa kwento eziningi la eSouth Africa ukuthi sazi ukuthi industrialization iyenzeka. Zonke lezo zinto ziyokwenza ngempela ukuthi ngelinye ilanga abantu abaningi bathola imisebenzi. Kusene indawo eziningi la okuthola ukuthi izikole azikho kahle. Amathuba njalo mase kwakhiwa lezo kole ayovela ukuthi abantu bakwazi ukuthola imisebenzi. Kanjalo nothisha abanye abahleli abanganayo imisebenzi avuleka amathuba. Ngikhulume ngeindustry ngikuyona njengamanje. Ngibhekele nezamagugu iheritage in particular. We're building new monuments, new museums. Nalapho futhi izinto zonke lezi ezoveza amathuba ukuthi si transform the heritage landscape of the country, but at the same time senze show ukuthi infrastructure ye heritage ongathola ukuthi enakulezi akhathe endala be only in the urban areas. Today you have got museums in the rural areas. You have museums that are being built go Hank in the Eastern Cape, the OR Tambo Center of Remembrance or Garden of Remembrance Enkantolo in the Eastern Cape, Encome, a museum Enutu. So we are beginning to see what this government is doing in terms of saying you cannot just have a particular infrastructure as a preserve of the urban areas, that the rural population must also have access to this kind of infrastructure. Ngaleyo ndlela ke kuningi ngibona mina kuqhubeka kuzokwenza ukuthi amathuba amaningi avuleke kubantu ukuze abantu bakwazi ukuthola imisebenzi ukuze abakwazi abantu ukuthi baqhubekele phambili.
Siyabonga kakhulu ke Mr. Ndima. Thank you so much for ukuthi usijoine namhlanje. Shuthi abantu ke bahlangane nane union buildings kusasa.
Siyajabula kakhulu.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Okay, now unfortunately we've come to the end of today's show. Sicela ukubonga Mr. Vusithemba Ndima and our studio guests for their time. Sibonge nani babukele emakhaya ukuthi phela nibe nathi kuze kube manje. Please catch up us next week Friday when we will be focusing on issues of food labeling in South Africa. Ukuthola impinde zenhlelo zethu ke mbukeli, join us every Monday mornings from 9:30 kuya ku 10:30. Kumina uAlisha Jali ne crew yami. Ngisicela ukuthi goodbye, nisale kahle.
Lakho mnganwa, lakho mnganwa, lakho mnganwa, lakho mnganwa, omake timpolompo, lakho mnganwa, lakho mnganwa,